potentially share that if you want to unmute yourself and say, at the end of the presentation, here's what I would like to learn, so that I can make sure to touch on those points as much as possible, right? Again, this is for you. I know each of you are potentially in different stages of your business and your growth. So hopefully I just don't want to be able to miss anyone, or anything that you may want to learn specifically that I may be able to support you with. I created just a bit of a power presentation. Part of this is going to be, in some ways, the basics and fundamentals that I want to touch in relation to marketing. And then kind of hopefully talk you through a little bit about the mindset. Really, what I want you to draw out of this presentation, and the value that I want you to take away with is I want you to walk out with a particular mindset of what you have to have in order to truly scale and grow your businesses through your customers, because I believe that's really what you're here to learn. I'll start sharing a little bit about, let me just move my slide here. Seems like we're having technical difficulties, but as you guys may know, my name is Carlos Velasco, and I am the president and founder of Novle Community Activators. A little bit about myself: I was born in Ecuador, moved to the States when I was 12 years old, lived in LA for about 15 years, and really started my career here in Arizona about 22 years ago. To be frank with you, I never thought that I would be running and managing a multicultural marketing agency. That wasn't the intent for me in the beginning. And I share this with you because there's always an evolution in entrepreneurship. And again, and depending on the stage that you're in, you may find out that in time this may evolve for you as well, and your product offering and potentially the passion. I actually started my work in advocacy, in activism. I have a true passion for community and true passion for being able to support the advancement of communities, particularly from the lens of economic empowerment, economic advancement. I spend a good majority of my time doing advocacy work for small business through the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and then work very closely with Kimber Landing and Local First, developing Fuerza Local, and then just did everything in relation to advocacy as, again, for small business to access, in relation to access to capital and all those things. I took all of the training that I learned from advocacy work, which was really around conforming the aspects of mobilizing and organizing community, brought that into my business with Noble, because at the beginning I figured that I wanted to help these companies who may want to understand how to better make connections with those communities. And all of that 8 years later has formulated to a scope of full service marketing and advertisement. I share this with you as a way to set a base that no one's born a marketer. So it's a skill that you can learn. I wasn't a marketer. I didn't understand branding. I didn't understand these components of everything that ties into being able to articulate your value proposition and truly engage and grow customers. But I did understand relationships, and I understood community. So again, I just share that as a basis that I truly believe that all of us have an innate component of being able to be great marketers, great communicators. All we really have to do is set ourselves in the right mindset, and understand that this is a process of trial and error, right? As you try and experiment in the process of how you communicate and articulate and tell your story to engage your customers, you're continually improving that process, right? It's never going to be stagnant. It's never going to get to an end. It's always something that we're perfecting and something that we're moving, because customers are evolving, economies are evolving, needs are evolving. So you constantly have the need to continue to evolve your marketing process with that. What I wanted to touch in, hopefully this will touch a bit more on the fundamentals, but I really wanted to go in more into what I believe are the three core functions of marketing and business. And again, and I think that this is important because hopefully this will set your mindset in relation to some of the fundamental components of things that I know some of you might have worked through, but may need to work through a bit more before, as a way to improve the engagement, and how you go about marketing and growing with your customers, right? For most of us as small business, a lot of the way that we develop and grow our business, particularly at the beginning, and so through relationships, right? What I will tell you is what I tell most people that come in, is something that we practice a lot here in Noble, is one of the first mindsets that you have to have is you have to become obsessed with your customer. You really do. It's a love relationship that sometimes could be a bit challenging and difficult, as we know. But the more obsession that you can bring into your customers, the more obsession that you can bring into understanding their wants, their needs, their aspirations, the better you're going to become, the better you're going to be at the component of marketing. One of the errors that I made at the beginning, and this is very common amongst entrepreneurs because we're very passionate, is sometimes we tend to center ourselves in the narrative or the story, right? We're passionate about our product or service, and we think that it's about us, and we're trying to fulfill that aspiration, and we're trying to fulfill our dreams. And sometimes we tend to neglect the fact that the hero of the story is not really us. The hero of the story is really our customers, right? And sometimes because we don't center that focus into our customers, we tend to be a little bit over the top in the way that we're trying to communicate, and sometimes try to articulate our value proposition, right? Because we understand it well. And at the beginning, that one of the errors that I would make in marketing is that I will go very technical and I will geek out and trying to explain people the methodology of how I build the product, and people would just look at me like, "What, dude? I don't understand." Like, and eventually, I had to realize that for the customer, at the end of the day, it's about features and benefits and how does it solve my problem and how does it make my life better, right? So I tell you this in context. I'll talk a little bit more about it through the presentation in relation that that's part of the mindset. It's like, look at the fact that your customer is your hero and you are the facilitator of your hero's dream, right? So the more that you can put yourself in that mindset and saying, what does my hero want? What is his problem? And if I solve his problem, what is the aspirations or what are the things that he's going to be able to achieve? The better you're going to be positioned to understand how to draw things from that customer to articulate your value proposition, to articulate their needs, to articulate their wants, to be able to articulate and tap into the aspirations, including the relational component, right? Again, it's not that difficult in many sense if we bring all our focus to our customers. They have the answer. They can help you improve your product, right? They can help you improve your service. And all we have to do is just formulate that relationship and ask, right? Just the way that you do with any other relationship in your life. So for the three core functions of marketing in business, I'm going to start with the aspects of clarity, again, building trust and driving action. In relation to creating clarity, it's always important for you to do some framing in relation to, do we know who we are and why we matter in the sense of our product or service, right? So who are we and what is truly the reason why we matter to our customers? Who exactly are we for and who are we not for? And this is also a component that will help you strategically to make decisions in relation to your time and the time and money that you spend in your marketing efforts, okay? And in truly understanding, like, who is my product built for and who is my product not built for? And these are components that you may want to also figure out in relation to what makes you competitive, because all of us have commodity products, where I'm a commodity, right? There's hundreds of marketing companies and there's hundreds of companies out there already offering what you do. But what truly helps you to stand out, and who appreciates and values your proposition, okay? Maybe the proposition for your business really comes from the relationship component of it. It's saying, like, our business competes because we provide the best service and we create the strongest relationships with our customers that allows us to serve them in their needs. And that could be air conditioning. We have a customer here, a good client of ours that owns an air conditioning company, and that's primarily what they compete on, right? They don't compete so much in the service aspect of, fixing an air conditioning is fixing an air conditioning. They truly compete on this narrative about empowering their customers and helping them understand the journey of, like, what it requires to fix an air conditioning, because a lot of people are always skeptical and afraid to engage with air conditioning companies, because all of us as customers want that psychological safety, right? We always acquire a product, we always acquire some type of service. And for us, the play is, are they really going to be able to help me in a way that is fair? Are they really going to fix my problem and my life is really going to get better? Because a lot of us, as we interact with products and services, sometimes don't have the best experience. So the way that he competes is in this aspect of really taking the customer through the component of even taking them up and showing them, like, look, this is what I'm fixing and this is why I'm fixing it. He educates his customers. He really interacts them in that process. And that's something that allows him to build a unique value proposition because most their conditions needs don't do that. And those, for his profile of customer, kind of going back to understanding the customer, he's been able to really narrow down in that type of customers that appreciates that level of service, that appreciates that level of interaction with him. And he really tries to stay away from customers that don't care about those aspects. He's identifies as when customers are just coming to me and say, no, just fix it. I don't really care to know. He typically don't pick up those type of customers because then he runs into issues. And later on, the customer questioning the approach, the why did you fix this? Why did you do that? Why did you charge me this? So if he's not able to truly educate and engage with the customer through the process, that's the trade-off that he makes in saying this type of customer that's just looking for sometimes just service, or he's just looking to for the cheapest price. It's just not my kind of customer. Now, it could also be in reverse. For some of you, could be that you compete on price, right? And it could be just fully service driven, but then you have to really configure your value proposition from that stance and saying like, well, who are the type of customers that all they care about is buying the cheapest product, right? And that's okay too. Some people appreciate products and want to buy them at the most cost-effective way, right? But with that, right, comes a component of the expectation and how you market those things for your customers. And there are customers that are willing to pay for quality work, right? Quality means a lot of rejection. Quality tends to be a bit more costly, but it also comes with a higher expectation in relation to your customers. So I share all this with you in the context to hopefully get you thinking about how to think through that aspect of truly understanding like what is your proposition and where is your value being drawn for, and who is it built for, right? Who it truly is your audience. What do we want to be known for in the midst of our audience? Again, I keep going back to this aspect of this is part of that component of reputation building with your customers. Is you in the marketing component and the marketing aspect are in control of your own narrative, right? But you really have to narrow down in relation to like, how do I want my customers to talk about me, and how do I want to be known, right? Fastest, the most quality, the most efficient, the most caring, the best service, right? Go through an exercise and truly try to define like, how do I want to be known? Or potentially, if you have customers now, have a conversation with your customers and say, hey, I have 5 minutes with you. If you were describing me to someone else, how would you describe me? What are the qualities that you will tell that my business holds or that I hold in the service that I provide you to other people, right? Your customers, again, hold the key, and your most loyal customers are going to be energized to say, oh, well, Carlos, what I love about you is really just how you really take the time and dig deep into understanding our needs. You're very thoughtful and mindful. You're very strategic in the aspect of what you do. You truly are trying to look at things through our lens and not necessarily through your lens. And you're really helping us to build this strategies and campaigns that are helping us to create meaningful relationships in communities. And your team is fun. I love working with them. You guys are very responsive every time that we have a need. So those are components that you could abstract from your customer to begin to develop a frame strategy for your marketing. Is that making sense, everyone?
Carlos, I have a question
Yes,
for the
please.
audience in general. If I just wanted to know if somebody has a question, do you want them to add it to the chat
You
and
know
they
what?
answer at the end, or it's okay for you that they interrupt you and they can just
Yeah, please interrupt me. Whenever you can, because it'd be easier. Just the way my screen is set up, it's gonna be challenging for me to read the chats. So, and I'm gonna be pausing. I mean, I'm starting with a lot of information, but I'm gonna pass down, and I will take questions from this component of speaking a bit about clarity.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Nobody has any questions so far? Okay, Carlos, you can go
Okay.
ahead. Yeah.
So again, so to going back to clarity is just a critical component that can help and support the development of your marketing strategy, and then understanding why should someone choose us over any other option available, right? Clarity is really what turns noise into meaning. So be sure to have those clarity moments. This is an iteration. This is a form of beginning to formulate, again, your practice of understanding how to communicate your value proposition, and always keep in mind that that's always evolving, right? You're going to find out that as you begin to experiment in some ways with your communication strategy and the way that you're trying to relate why people should choose you versus someone else, or why people should consume your product or service, you're going to find out very quickly what works and what doesn't work. My recommendation in that is keep what works, right? You experiment and you say, I notice that people are really engaging and seems like I'm gaining more clarity from, it sounds like people are getting more clarity in understanding the offering and understanding where the value comes from. And these other aspects, people are not responding. So let's get rid of that and let's see how else we can enhance the way that we communicate our company or value proposition or product and service. The second aspect of this work is one, the clearer you are, the more concise you are, and the better you are at being able to articulate your value proposition. Again, being obsessed with your customer, right? Part of that articulation is truly understanding the problem of your customer. And again, I ask you to do this exercise so that you can eliminate assumptions, right? A lot of times, as business owners, as marketers, we make assumptions based on what we think our customer wants from our product or service, and we try to sell on those assumptions. And it's happened to me where a lot of times we're like, well, I thought that what you wanted from us was this. And they're like, no, dude, what I really want from you guys is this. Here's where I see the value, right? Um, so it's really important to understand what is that composition of what the problem for your customer is, how they want you to solve that problem for them, and how is it that after you solve that problem, their life gets enhanced, and truly why are they aspiring to solve this issue. I go back to the air conditioning aspect of the exercise, because hopefully that's a simple example. For a lot of the customers of my clients, the aspect of having the air conditioning work has to do with making sure that his family is comfortable, right? That's the hero moment for dad, right? That's the hero moment in saying, like, I love my family, I care about my family, I need to get this AC because if not, my children and my wife are going to be hot and suffering. And when dad is attentive and he gets a good company and he gets a good service and the air conditioning is fixed, we get to enjoy our time as family. That's the aspirational aspect of your customers, right? That's ultimately what your customers care about in some regards. That may not necessarily have to do with the component of fixing the air conditioning, right? So that's what I mean by being in tune with those aspirations. All of us as consumers, put yourself in the aspect of being a consumer. We are all aspirational consumers, right? We are all striving to be a hero in our own way, and we're all doing it for different reasons and different motivations. So try to tune into that and try to really work in articulating and understanding that part of the narrative as well. So when you have a conversation with the customer, this is how this goes into the topic, right? When I'm talking to my customers, I'm really going through that narrative component and saying, customer, I understand what the issue is and I understand your frustrations, right? And I empathize with you because that's so frustrating that you have been working with other marketing agencies and all they've done is taking your money and run away with it and never really helped you create sound solutions. And I know that what you're trying to do is impact your community and read through your product and your service. But let me tell you why we're the most qualified to help you, right? A, B, and C. I kind of talk about my qualifications and all those things. And let me showcase to you how you can engage with us. And then let me showcase to you how, as we work together through this process, you're going to be able to fulfill that aspiration in which you're trying to serve your customer. But again, a big component of that is clarity first, right? On the building trust, how do we make sure that people believe in us? Brand plus community and experience. So are we showing up consistently in how we communicate and deliver our product? Again, these are all elements that affect your growth and affect your customer interaction. And being able to showcase and show up with consistency in your brand is also important. We are all a brand in ourselves, right? All of us have a personality. All of us dress a certain way. All of us show up to our friends and build relationships in a consistent way. You got to do the same thing for your brand, right? Because if you're not consistent in the way that you show up, in the way that you provide service, and the way that you interact with your customers, then that creates that level of anxiety and inconsistency that may affect your ability to grow your business through your customers, right? I mean, think about the responsibility that we all take when we refer someone, right? You're on the hook. Anytime that somebody asks me, Carlos, do you have somebody that can help me with X, Y, and Z? I'm going to speak about your business and say, oh, yeah, Linda, she's great. She shows up on time. They're very professional. They'll explain to you the process, and I've had an amazing experience. And all of a sudden, Linda shows up late, provides a horrible experience. You know, didn't do her hair that morning. That level of inconsistency would hurt your business. That level of inconsistency could hurt your ability to gain and grow through your customers. So formulate a plan to understand like how do we build consistency from our brand. And this schematics can come from the feel, the look, the color, the way you show up to meetings, right? You got to create a framework because that consistency is the consistency that's truly important to build trust, right? Trust is a huge accelerator in business. But in order to build trust, you have to be consistent and you have to understand the perimeters of your organizational brand and the way you're going to provide service. So again, are we showing up consistently and how do we communicate and deliver? Build, and a lot of these things I know you guys get to hear a lot from people, but really try to hone in into that 30-second elevator pitch. Stick with it, be consistent. Obviously create a base for that and then improve and also deliver that pitch depending on the type of customer. Sometimes you have to adjust it a little bit, but deliver some level of consistency so that you can engage potentially with new customers and they understand how to talk about you, but you can again create trust through that process. Ask yourself a question: does our brand feel credible and relevant to the customers that we serve? Again, this could be also questions that you can ask your customers. It's like, how do you feel about our interaction or brand? Do we feel that when we interacted, did you feel that I was able to establish credibility with you immediately, or what things were you hesitant about? What were the barriers that I was eventually able to answer that allow you, customer, to give me an opportunity to do business with you? Again, customer obsessed. Your customers have all the answers. I'm hoping that, or I'm thinking that most of you have already had customer interactions. You may have an ideal client. Hang on to that client, build that relationship with that client, and make that client your partner. People are more than happy and willing to help you with this exercise if you simply ask them these questions, right? And then ask this question about: are we creating real value before asking for anything in return, right? What is the value that you're creating for your customers? How are you concerned with value creation that moves outside of just the selling component, right? Value creation really comes in understanding your customers. I keep hammering on that because if we don't put that focus and center on them, that it's not so much about even us selling what we do, but it's more about asking questions to truly dig deep in understanding the customer's needs and the customer's problems and the customer's aspirations. When I have meetings with my customers here, I'll share with you, I literally spend 3 to 5 minutes explaining Novle, and then I get right into need analysis. I'm like, why did you choose us? How did you come here? What issues have you had in the past? What are you looking to solve? One question will lead to the next. And I take them through this journey because I'm really trying to get to the core of the issue, right? And I'm making that assessment as a way to be able to be fair to that customer to understand whether I have the capabilities to serve them, right? And this is also part of that trust building component and understanding your capabilities to say, customer, now I understand that you say that your needs hurting, but the real issue and the pain point of your knee is not even your knee, it's the fact that you're not wearing the right kind of shoes. And I'm not a shoemaker, right? But I can tell you that you potentially don't need knee surgery. You just need to go get new shoes, right? That's value creation that people appreciate. Or it could be, again, I've identified that you have a knee issue, and the real pain point that we have to solve in the surgery aspect of it is this part of the knee, because this is what's creating the issue. So I'm giving you those analogies, hopefully, as a way to help you understand that that's truly what drives customer interaction and customer growth. Is the more you can be focused in asking questions and truly understanding that need, that want, the aspirations, the more capable you're going to be to serve that need, and the more you're going to be able to build a stronger relationship with your customer. Don't sell them anything, right? Truly understand what the need is, truly understand that, and then configure whether you have the ability to serve. I'm going to take a pause there. Is there anything that's come up? Any questions?
Any questions? I don't have anything in the chat. Please feel free for the people that just join. If you want to ask a question, just unmute yourself. I think this is really valuable, Carlos. I love this because I have seen a lot of people that their first interaction is just only talking about their product or their service. And it should be less about their product and more about the other person, their audience, their needs, what they need. Dr. Mektab, do you have a question? No?
Yeah, I have a question. Hi, Carlos. Thank
I
you, Linda. Um, like, thank you so much for for building the steps. Like, I am just taking notes very very closely. And I wanted to ask how you would suggest the steps to build trust. I am building some steps on my own, like posting and showing up consistently and starting from the close network that I know in the sector that I think will value the product, the model that I am I am offering. But I am also reaching out to people that I don't know. They are not in my network, or I don't know them in person, personally. How would you suggest that I could get that trust or build that trust in steps?
That's a great question, Doctor. Uh, Honestly, it's about genuine interest, right? And I'm sure that a lot of us do this work through sometimes our platforms through either LinkedIn or maybe we meet people at a space. Never approach I never approach trust building from a lens of, again, putting myself and my need first, right? I really try to approach the aspect of saying, if I could build a relationship with this person, an individual, it could potentially allow me an opportunity to do business with them. So how do I become genuinely interested in who this person is? Whether that is a CEO of a company, whether that is a business owner, none of us like to be sold, right? But all of us like to have relationships, and all of us like to be asked questions, right? All of us like when people inquire about us and say, "Hey, Carlos, I see your business, man. Like, how long have you had your business?" "Oh, I've had it for 8 years." And like, "How did you start your business?" "Oh, started this way." "Oh, where are you? Where are you originally from?" "Oh, I was born," you know, really be to build trust. You really have to try to inquire and try to figure out a way to become genuinely interested about what aspect of that person interests you, and why are you trying to build a relationship with this person outside of just doing business, right? And I can tell you that one of the things that I am most proud of as far as like our organization is that we have very, very strong relationships with our customers, right? Beyond just the service and what we provide, what the glue that holds a lot of times our business together when we fall into challenging times is the component that we have taken the time to build that relationship. I understand my clients' stories beyond their business. I know that they're moms and they have kids and their hobbies, right? So I think that's a good form to build relationships. When I go in LinkedIn and I'm interested in someone, I'll read through their profile. I take the time, I do the research, and then somewhere in there I'll find a connection. The other day I reached out. I can't remember what exercise I was doing, but I was doing this component of research, and I found out that this person that I was trying to contact was a soccer fan, right? Like he played in the league in Tempe, and that the way that I make the connections. Like, "Hey, Mike, I know you run this company. By the way, I see that you play in Tempe. I actually happen to play in that league. I just wanted to make a connection." And there was a response, and we started kind of connect is, "Oh, yeah, I've been playing soccer there for so many years." And, "Oh, that's great." That person by inertia became interested in me, right? Because they start looking at your profile and like, who the hell is this guy? Why is he reaching out to me? Like, and then I have a very, again, this is part of where your assets for trust building have to be in play and consistency too, right? Particularly if you're working in those components of LinkedIn, it's like make sure that you have a strong profile that is built well and you're articulating the component of who you are, your credibility, and your value proposition. So as people begin to interact, that's the first aspect of like trust building. Because if I interact with you, then I go to your LinkedIn and there's no picture of you. I can't, your narrative is distorted. You're not really showcasing your qualifications. We got to brag about yourselves, right? Obviously, you're a doctor, but if you had your education, that's what LinkedIn is for, right? It's establishing. So I will share that. And then lastly, look, trust building is innate, right? We all know how to build trust with people. So be authentic and be true to who you are as far as how you like to build trust with individuals. I'm sharing with you my method of trust building, which again, it's typically about genuine interest and asking a bunch of questions and getting people to open up. But you may have a different methodology to build trust, right? So figure out what those things are and simply implement those things into your business. Was that
Thank
helpful?
you. Yeah, thank you so much, Carlos.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Again, I love having more of this interaction to answer questions because I feel like we can learn more. So please do ask questions, interact, don't be shy. I know you guys are business owners, so uh, this is your opportunity to get most value by asking questions.
Thank you. I love that what you just said, Carlos, because what you're explaining right now, that doesn't mean that everybody has to implement that to their business word by word. Every business, every person have a different personality. So you really need to take this information and make it yourself. Make it your own personality, your brand personality, and use it that way. Thank you. I don't have any more questions here on chat, Carlos. So
Okay. I'll move along. But again, we touched on this aspect of building trust. Hopefully, you get the point. Again, these things are not meant to be overly complex and difficult. Don't also we don't got to make things more difficult than they are. Simply just think about these things. This is an aspect of awareness. How aware am I in the way that I am positioning myself to be trustworthy? Um, and am I showcasing and showing up myself in a way that is consistency? Again, all of us look for that psychological safety whenever we interact in human relations. And that's the same thing for our customers, right? Our customers are just human beings that want to feel safe, that want to feel they can trust you, right? And they want to feel that if they interact with you, you're going to be able to deliver on what you promise. Another, again, thing that we really do a lot as a basis of our business is under promising, over deliver. It's something that cliches, right? You hear a lot, under promise, over deliver, but it's true. Try to always approach the trust building component with humility. People appreciate that when you don't have to have. A lot of times I tell the customers, I don't really know, but I know that we could do this work for you. We can do this together and try to get through this process to figure out how to help you. And most customers don't walk away from that. Most customers will say, you know what, Carlos, yeah, I do see the value of kind of working with you in partnership to try to configure how we may be able to bring a solution to this particular marketplace through our marketing, right? And that kind of honesty goes a long way to build trust because it showcases that vulnerability that we all hold. And again, and it really allows people to know that you're invested, and that goes a long way in doing business. It was something people will appreciate a lot. The last component of the three-pronged strategy, if you want to call it the three pillars, is driving action, right? So are we making it easy for people to choose us? Demand and conversion. Do people clearly understand what to do next after engaging with us? So this is really important because a lot of times this is where a lot of us fall short in the component of our marketing. I also want all of you to know that I know a lot of you guys are networkers. I hope that you may all recognize that is a function of marketing, right? When you go out and network and you are at an event, you are marketing, right? That's a form of grassroots marketing. So when you're in that function of marketing yourself, establishing, so now let's say you are able to articulate your value proposition well. A person leans in and say, you know what, I'm really interested in that, and that is something that we've been trying to resolve. Or yeah, I do have this issue with my air conditioning. I can keep talking about the air conditioning example, and we've been struggling because we haven't been able to find a air conditioning company that can help us. What is the process that you have that you can share with this prospect in order for them to engage with your business, right? Because a lot of times that's where we kind of fumble a little as business owners. It's like somebody tells you, okay, I'm interested, and you're like, oh, well, right? You got to give people a process. So for example, for us, part of the process is saying, great, the next thing that we'll do here is I'm going to send you an email. We're going to set some time to meet. I'm going to do a need analysis. Typically, after we do the need analysis, then we come back with a solution. We'll talk about pricing. We can negotiate that. And then we can start your activation process, right? So you got to start laying out what is that process of engagement once the customer leans in and the customer is interested, right? For you, it could be need analysis. For you, it could be exploration. But what is that process? How do you take me from someone who's interested to someone who is doing business with you? Because that psychologically allows a person to know, okay, So step one is this, step two is this, step three is this. Okay, I know that you have a process, and again, psychological safety helps me to understand, like, okay, I know that you're gonna take me to this, and at any point, if I choose not to do this through this process, then I'm out, right? And that's what we tell our clients: exploration, because we need to understand if we can serve you first. If through that meeting we understand that we do have the capabilities to provide you a solution, then we move to developing a plan, right? A proposal for you. Then we'll review that proposal together, and if that proposal makes sense and it's something that is feasible for you in relation to you being able to pay, uh, we can negotiate in this process as well. Then great. Then the next phase really becomes the component of onboarding you and then developing and executing the plan. So for my customers, right, they see a journey saying like, okay, you're gonna take me through this journey, and in certain parts of the journey, I could always step away if I feel like there's not a fit for us to do business together, right? So work through that, because that's part of the actional aspect that you have to have in your mind in order to attract more customers when you get that opportunity. Again, how simple and frictionless is the path for the customers to say yes. This again are things that when you pay attention, you can kind of begin to look at those barriers. We talked about one earlier, right? A lot of times the barrier is trust. A lot of times the barrier could be credibility, right? How I understand that a lot of my customers, until I don't serve that need for them to feel that we are a credible company, they're not going to do business with us. So how do I address that? And I anticipate that component of my marketing to know that I already tapped into that need for the customer to feel reinforced through credibility, so they can break that barrier that allows me to take in a step closer to doing business with them and getting them to say yes. So understand what those things are. A lot of those things sometimes come through what we call um, well, simple terms, right? We're all afraid to interact in business, so you have to understand what those fears are in relation to your product and your service so that you can answer those questions. We get ahead a lot with our customers in answering some of those fears that they have, and then also even understanding what are some of the fears that they have that they're not going to tell me, right? One of those things are like, well, if I associate myself with your organization, then is my reputation at risk, right? I'm able to anticipate some of those unshared fears and concerns and address them with the customers, because I know that that's all is all that process is truly just breaking down barriers that allows us to be able to interact and do business. So again, customer obsession, right? And then obviously we're turning attention into measurable outcomes. So how are you through your process of your work and your marketing, going back to whether you do that through LinkedIn, whether you do that email, whether you do that through grassroots, do you have a funnel? Do you have a process that allows you to say, here are my leads, here am I converting leads into warm prospects, here's a prospects converting to appointments, here's appointments converting to sales pages, and these sales pages convert into like customers for the organization. Create a funnel so that you know that you're progressively working through the actions of your marketing into the conversion of a customer, right?
Carlos, we have a question.
Yes.
Can you hear me? So we have a question. It says, marketing wise, I'm good at social networking, building business toward experience rather than the product. I have social media. So my question is about email signature type stuff.
Okay.
Do you include your email on your email signature? Do you leave your professional picture of you out of the email signature? Should I add both the logo and a picture to my signature? What is the best way to brand myself through the signature?
That's a great question. So again, that goes back to alignment. So it sounds like what you're sharing is you're already doing a lot of this activity in social media. So you're already showcasing yourself in a particular way through your marketing. How do you transfer that same type of profile style into your email marketing as well? And ultimately, what is the outcome for what you are trying to do with that function of marketing? So as an example, we do every 2 weeks, we send a newsletter to, or what we call our activator community, which is the community of stakeholders that follow because we do a good amount of PR work. Like yesterday, for example, we hosted an event. We had about 150 people that participated in the event because we were presenting and introducing one of our clients' brands. In our email strategy, we are not so much focused on the selling component of Novle. We're really focusing a little bit more on the relational aspect of like speaking about things that we know are concerning or can create value to the end reader. And we do it in a way that it's very interactive and with a clear call to action. And a lot of times where we're like, hey, now that we shared this with you, what are your thoughts? What do you think? Right? Ultimately, what you want is to be able to frame your communication strategy in a way that is authentic and in a way that is true to who you are. And if the component of your service is personal, then yeah, absolutely, add your picture, right? Add your signature. Put in your voice, put in your tone, so people really feel like you're trying to directly interact with them, right? Even though you could be sending this to a group of 1,000 email lists, the idea is that when that email reaches Carlos, it feels like you're directly speaking to Carlos, and it feels like it's very personalized. So a good exercise again is this is an exercise of branding, is ask yourself the question as far as like, what is the voice for the brand? Is it a direct voice? Is it an educational voice? Is it a fun voice? Is it a, what kind of tone and voice do you want to implement into that communication strategy as a way to be able to create a perimeter that can allow you to do and communicate through email in a way that is consistent? What is the kind of interactions that you're trying to have with this activity, right? I said, what is the value proposition for that? Is it more educational? Is it more simply to stay top of mind for my customers and share them like, hey, Linda, hope you're well in the summers, going amazing. Oh, it's always so difficult with the kids because we got to figure out what to do with the kids in the summer. By the way, as a mom, I mean, just sharing as someone saying that you're a mom, but as a mom, I figured out that the best way to stay busy with my kids is by X, Y, and Z, being a business owner and staying busy. These are the things that I do that I just wanted to share with you, Linda. Oh, that was valuable, right? At the end of that signature, people know that your business is whatever that business may be, air conditioning. And that's more of a strategy to stay top of mind and stay relevant and maintain a relationship with those people. I know a lot of you had heard about the term market share, right? That activity that you do as you grow your social media, as you grow your distribution list with your email is your market share, right? Those 1,000 people, 500 people, 300 people is part of a share of the market that you hold. That communication strategy, depending on what your goal is simply staying top of mind with that market, right? Because at one point they're going to have a need. See, that's the thing about marketing is like you don't always have to be selling and promoting products. Build a relationship. Obviously, the rule of thumb for us is like 90-10, 90% of the time we're really trying to showcase and provide things that we feel are valuable for our activator community and or potential customers. And 10%, we bring in like, oh, by the way, this is what Novle does. By the way, we helped this client this way. But most of it is really relationship maintenance. And then at one point, what's happened is because we maintain top of mind, at one point a need presents themselves to one of those individuals that are in our pipeline. And then they'll reach out to us. Hey, Carlos, it just happened that we now got a budget to start doing multicultural, and I thought of you and would like to have a conversation. Great. That's because we stay top of mind. I gave you a long-winded answer, but I hope that helps. I guess to summarize that, what I'm saying is tune into your style, figure out what the value creation and value proposition is for your newsletter, and then maintain consistency to that as well, right? Try to develop a framework for this is the style and the way that I'm going to formulate my communication. If you decide to incorporate your picture and get more personable with your newsletter, that's totally fine. But once you kind of go down that road, make sure that you maintain that consistency. Okay. And look for interaction. I mean, this is where data becomes important, right? When you do email marketing, you have access on the back end to see what the opening ratio is, right? So you can work out against those things, right? You can grow what you can measure. So you can always say, okay, out of the are my database that I have 1,000 people in my database, 60% of the people that are opening my emails. Hey, that's a great ratio. That means that people are interested opening it and spending time within my newsletter. If you notice that the number is 5%, then there's a problem, right? Don't waste time doing things that are not yielding outcomes. But use that intelligence, use that data that is provided for you to know, shoot, okay, here's the base. I'm starting at 5%. I have 100 people in my list. Only 5 people are opening my emails. Let me iterate and begin to experiment a little bit in my communication style to see if I can increase those numbers. And then you realize like, oh, now it's 15 people out of 100 people. Maybe that turns into 30 people, 40 people, 50 people. But again, once you kind of begin to hone in into that, into what people are responding to and becoming interested in, then make sure that you begin to follow that line, right? Don't get distracted. Begin to build consistency through experimentation and marketing. Um, Again, same thing with social media. A lot of times we create content. Um, Maybe nobody watches and nobody interacts. Then what's the value of you spending time for something that's not yielding you results, right? So you have to be able to measure those things and experiment. That's part of marketing, is experimenting. Try something, keep what you feel works, and get rid of what you feel or what you know is not working, and then build upon what worked, and then come out with another idea on top of that idea to say, okay, this is working. How else can I put fuel to this fire, since I notice that people are responding well to this format of communication, of this format of marketing, right? Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Linda, how am I doing in time? I got about 8 minutes.
You're doing really well. It's almost 10, so you have another 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody it's saying in the chat that it made sense, that thank you.
Okay, great. Guys, what else can I answer? I think I don't want to sit here and just speak for myself, but I would really like to hear a little bit more about questions, inquiries. Maybe somebody wants to share about their business and kind of how why are you here, I guess, would be my question to you.
Let's get a sense of who's here, guys. So we love to hear what is your business and why you're here today.
Yes.
Linda, I have a question, or Carlos. My name is Sonia, and my business is in the educational services. And my focus is really trying to increase my visibility. As an LLC, it's a challenge to learn all of the different platforms and to know what is going to be most feasible. I mean, I know there are free platforms, and it's just a challenge. I think for me, my biggest challenge is that visibility, being on LinkedIn, being on Facebook, being on the different platforms, and then managing the website as well. And so, as you mentioned, being credible, I think that's just one of the challenges for me, is the expenses of managing the platforms, and also knowing how to navigate each one of them in order to be able to be visible, to provide that professional, outlook for your consumer. And so I guess my question to you is, what do you think, or what would you recommend as a starting point for those of us who are, in this space, but again, just kind of trying to navigate all of the different platforms and trying to focus. I try to focus on utilizing, a Constant Contact is the one that I use to send out a newsletter monthly to be visible. But again, and I monitor, exactly what you're saying, how many, what is my open rate, and, going through and different things like that. But what is your recommendation as far as managing and how that goes? Because honestly, there's a lot of work for one person to manage all of this. And so just want to hear your thoughts on that as far as what your recommendations are.
Well, Sonia, thank you for bringing that up. And I think this is going to tap into different components. And I empathize, particularly when you are building your business, we gotta navigate and be a jack of all trades, right? And we're really trying to figure out how to do all things. But what my recommendation would be, or the question that I would ask myself would be, out of all the platforms that you are utilizing or that you're trying to serve, which one is the one in which that will create the most amount of value with the things that you're trying with the audience that you're trying to communicate? So meaning with the type of audience and the type of customer profile that you have, will you say that I have more probabilities to find those customers through LinkedIn than I would ever do through TikTok or Instagram? Or I have more probabilities to find that customer through grassroots networking? I have more probabilities to do that through direct email. Which platform do you feel provides you the most probability to create the kind of outcomes, which in your case is customers? Where do your customers mostly live, and where will they be more willing to interact to do business with you?
Yeah, and that's the challenge I have because I'm both business to business as well as business to consumer,
Mhm.
providing services to families, as well as to other early childhood agencies and educational services. And then my second challenge is making sure that people know that I'm bilingual, and making sure that our services are in Spanish, and that's the challenge for me is knowing all
So
of those.
yeah, so Sonia, so what you have is you have to formulate almost two strategies, right? You have a business to consumer, which it sounds like that might be the families that you serve. And without not understanding your business, I'm gonna guess that potentially for those families, that's where the Spanish speaking component is really key, right? So, and potentially I'm gonna guess that most of those families will probably interact with you in a platform like Facebook or Instagram or maybe WhatsApp, right? And then you have your B2B strategy, which is more about like where I'm speaking to my customers, to my potential customers. Is that a good assumption?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So what I would say is, again, pick two platforms. So don't overextend yourself, right? And get more focused in saying, I'm focusing, for example, for us, right? We don't have TikTok, right? The two main platforms that we utilize, because I have a similar, in some ways, a similar need, right? We have our what we call our activator community, which are all the stakeholders that come and participate and help us to do the function of public relations. And we use Instagram to maintain a relationship with that audience. And we have a strategy for that Instagram and how we interact and the content that we create. And then for our customer acquisition, we have LinkedIn, right? So our strategy has been, let's focus on Instagram and grow that base because we need this audience for engagement in our public relation functions. And let's focus on LinkedIn, knowing that LinkedIn is simply the function in which we focus on business development. So my recommendation to you is this is a component of trade-offs, but also understanding what you want to do with each one of your channels, and then get focused and saying, in this channel is my Spanish speaking families, then create a schedule so that you can create consistency to say, based on my capacity, right? Because you have to do different things in your business. I feel comfortable that I can do 2 posts a week. But in those 2 posts, I'm going to focus more on quality content, right? Because a lot of times we think the game is about putting a bunch of content out there. And a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it's about quality content, right? It's like twice a week people see, but the content that I create for them is a quality content that I spend time building. And then kind of figure out the same strategy for your LinkedIn and saying, okay, based on my capability, how much time can I really dedicate to this function of spending time building content in LinkedIn for this kind of audience? And focus more on the quality engagement aspect of it versus the quantity. Uh, and don't overstretch yourself in thinking that you have to do all these platforms to do marketing. You may have to determine that it's just one platform to do marketing, right? If it's depending on where you are on the stage of your business, you may find that it's more critical right now for me to get customers. So I'm going to spend the bulk of my time in the LinkedIn platform or in networking or in my newsletter because I know that's what's going to yield me the results that I need and the priorities that I have them right now, right? And then little by little, as you grow your customer base and you get more bandwidth with money and you start hiring people, then you can bring focus to those other things because you're gonna need capacity. Now, the other way you could do it too is, Sonia, depending on where you're at with your business, is you can delegate that too, right? That's where maybe you can find there's a lot of people now that offer social media services that can just run your social media content. I mean, as business owners, we have to invest, right? And delegate. So maybe one component of your social media you delegate, you pay someone depending on the amount, $300 to $500 a month, and they take care of that for you, right? They're the ones who, and you just, you're a thought partner with them, right? And you're like, okay, this kind of content, and then you allow them to do that, so you get that out of your hands so that you can focus more on the B2B strategy, right? But I guess to conclude is, don't overstretch. That's a tendency that we have. And also, don't fall into the insanity loop of doing the same thing, expecting different results. So at one point, if you feel like, man, I've been doing LinkedIn for a year and I haven't got one customer, then something has to change, right? Don't keep wasting time. Like after a year or 6 months, like you should at least have at least one or two people that are interested in buying your product, right? Or else your marketing strategy is not working. So let's just not do things just for the sake of doing them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because a lot of us tend to fall into that trap and saying like, well, I'm doing marketing, but it's like saying, well, I'm trying to lose weight, but I'm not losing weight. So you're not really trying to lose weight, right? That's not really happening, right? So anyway, hopefully, I hope that helps. And that's more of a strategy also, Sonia. You got to find trade-offs, right? I'm gonna do this. I gotta do this, but in order to do this, I gotta let go of doing this. And that's entrepreneurship. Is like we always have to make those decisions of saying like, what do I do in order to, and what do I? And so if I do this, what do I gotta trade off because my focus has to be here.
Thank you. I
Absolutely.
appreciate that.
Thank you, Sonia. Remember, everyone, you don't have to be in every single one channel. You just need to choose the top ones, just like Carlos say. Carlos, we have 3 more questions.
Yes.
They're really long. They're in the chat. I don't know if you want to read them since they are really long. The first one is with Candance. I can read this one. My business is a wholesaling Oklala Lakota creations to retailers. I'm not sure what that is.
Okay.
Candance. I don't know if you want to ask that question yourself.
You want me to ask it? Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, let me go back to it here real quick here. All right. My business is wholesaling Oglala Lakota creations to retailers. Although I've had initial success in marketing their work to 3 major national park stores, I've been trying to determine how to increase my base like other types of retailers. And I recently discovered a trade journal for retailers. And I am considering advertising, which will gain me editorial contact. What is the best way to address this to gain more orders?
Sure. Well, I would always start with the low-hanging fruit, right? So meaning how good and how close of a relationship do you have with your current wholesale retail customers?
I feel I have a very good relationship with them. They've been making reorders.
Excellent. Have you had an opportunity to potentially ask them to refer you or ask them like, hey, where do you guys typically network? Where do you go for resources? Like, every niche, every industry has those aspects, right? And for example, your retail customer, like us, like I know all the marketers and I have relationships with them, even though sometimes they're competitors. And if not, I know where all the marketers live. I know where all the marketers go for conferences, right? To gain information and value to stay relevant. So I will start with those customers. I will really go back to them. And if you have a strong relationship, saying, Mike, have you felt that I've done a good job? It's like, oh my God, Candace, we love you. Well, I want to ask for a favor. I'm really trying to expand and grow my business. Is there anyone in your network that you feel that I could be talking about what I'm doing in my business? And most likely they're going to give you at least 1 or 2 or 3 names, right? And you can start building from your own customers, right? The fact that those guys already believe in you, the fact that you can leverage their name to make a phone call, that already comes with trust and credibility. Anytime I call someone and say, oh, Armando asked me to call you, He thought that maybe it would be a good idea for us to sit down. I've been helping him with this thing, and all I want to do is get an opportunity to meet you and grab some coffee with you. And most people, because of the leverage of the other relationship, is going to say, yeah, of course, if Armando said that I should have coffee with you, then I am. This is a form of marketing that is very powerful, right? In the sense that once you have that connection, go back to your customers, send them some cookies and be like, thank you so much for the referral and thinking of us. Again, ask your customers, like, where do you guys go for conferences? Ask them, who else are your suppliers? Who else is in the network? And what do you recommend that I do to grow my business? Get your customers invested. I ask my customers that way. Hey, I'm trying to grow, like, how do you see Novle? They're like, oh, yeah, you guys are doing great. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about doing that? I was like, oh, shit, I never really thought about it. Dude, you should go to this conference. This conference is really cool. And I think for the kind of stuff that you do, I think there's a need. So I'll follow those leads. So that's one way. I think that's really the low-hanging fruit for you that you really got to take advantage of, is like that customer base. They already love you. They trust you. And trust me, they have relationships. They have connections. But all we have to do is ask.
Okay.
All we have to do is ask. Great question, by the way. And again, for everyone here, that is the best way, the best form of marketing, as you guys all know, is referral marketing. And the best way to grow our businesses is through our customers, right? Realizing that it takes so much effort to get a customer, that acquisition and that time and money that we spend once we get that customer, once we serve that customer, and that customer becomes invested in us because they love us, because you're like, you solved my problem. Again, you made me the hero that I wanted to be. Then of course I want to help you, Carlos, too, because you helped me. And it's just we got to be in tune and making our customers or stakeholders as well in our own development and growth of our business. Particularly when it comes to B2B, we get it, right? Kind of if I get what it is to be a business owner. I get how difficult it is, Anytime a business owner comes to me and asks me for help, I get the struggle, man. Of course I'm going to help you. I get how it is. I'll give you a referral. Like I get you're a good person, you do good business. Like, let me help you. Right. And that's just a great form. And same thing with the networking. I think this is what SeedSpot does, is very critical. I think there's a mentoring function that's happening on Friday. Be direct, right? I talked about the direct call to action. Build relationships. So once that's established, you got to be direct and saying, okay, brother, how do we help each other out? Because, beyond just the networking and being here, I have we both are trying to accomplish something. How do I help you? And then how you help me, right? And having that kind of clarity really helps to move things forward.
Excellent.
In networking, right?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Bless you, my child.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Much needed.
Dr. Mecca, it's really interesting what you're talking about LinkedIn. Would you like to let us know a little bit more what you're doing in LinkedIn and what do you want to accomplish?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so I have started doing it like very recently, maybe like like last week was my second newsletter, like sent to people. So and I also post in LinkedIn, and today is the second one that is like published. So I try to do it like Sonia, like I share, like I feel her, like I feel I have a lot like to do, but I started from LinkedIn because I think like most of the right customers or people would be on LinkedIn rather than other platforms. And also I have certain energy to put into like, this kind of like marketing. So I started with LinkedIn, and every week I have something that are reaching out to the people. So I do it alternately. And in that, like I usually like ask people like questions, like, what are the pain points for you when working with like within your organization and with the educators or as like staff, and you are working with newcomer families, refugee families, multilingual families, and kids in terms of education. How, like, what is the best support out there for you? What would you like to have? So I'm trying to collect more data, and then I build my next post based on what I got as the data and offering like, if you have resources, not asking anything else yet, but like mostly like asking them questions and getting their opinion, also for me to learn more about what is needed on the field.
Great.
So this is what I do now. Yeah.
How's that work? So my question would be, how are you measuring that? And how is it working? What kind of results are you seeing?
Yeah, great question. So I am using Odoo website system. So it has its own like email marketing. So in my first and second newsletter, I just check how many times it is clicked. I have a survey there and I check how many people got. So the first one was really, really high, like 95% opened email and 70% survey responded. People also checked the website and shared it with like, people. I can see the data. In the second one, it's like it's a week now. So I'm seeing it's a bit lower than the first one because people were expecting. I also shared with them that I will be reaching out to them. So I'm seeing, but still I see over 50, 60% in each element. So it gives me a good idea that LinkedIn and also newsletter is getting like, like with the LinkedIn post, I see more profile search, like people are reaching out to me. Some people, they just got to me. And also I think like this is the platform that I really want to invest now. And hopefully if I have more like, time or maybe people and all, then maybe other platforms, but I started from here.
That's great. And how are you seeing the conversion of your efforts? Are you starting to see conversion into customers? Are you starting to
Yes.
see a little bit of that too?
So after my first newsletter, just like a colleague that I worked years ago reached out to me for a coaching exchange. So like I signed a 6 session, like, coaching exchange like with them. And there's another organization that like I know a few people there, but I haven't been talking like, for a while. They saw it. They saw what I posted and they wanted to have an initial conversation.
Excellent.
So like they are on the like good side. They asked, as you said, like, I asked them like, what do you need in your organization right now? But I have a partnership model that I have been working on for like, for months. And I am also sharing with that too, but I'm not going there. I first ask them like, how can I better support you as they reach out most of the time? Then I build and I say like, this is also the partnership model. Like on my website, I build that and there are details. See if this is something that like, that could help your staff, educators, and the families that you're working with.
Excellent. Yeah, so the method, you're on the right track. You're focused. Um, I asked you the question on conversion because that's important. So you're seeing conversion. So again, on the mindset component of what you're doing through your marketing now, it's you are iterating, right? And then you are being agile in the sense of saying, okay, the things again, keep doing the things that are working. Um, Follow the evolution as well. So when you see maybe numbers begin to dip, it's like, okay, maybe I gotta adapt things because I'm losing a bit of attention. So that's why it's good to look at the data. Uh, and then just create a base. You're starting to create a base of structure for your marketing. So now you can simply begin to improve those processes, right? And improve in relation of the ideas that you come up and what's attracting attention and bringing conversion. The other thing that I will share in the journey. So, and this is for all of us, right? That ratio of engagement is high, which is great. So that means that people that are following our journey with you, they're interested, they're engaged, and at one point they're going to have a need. In the credibility aspect, you could begin to share some of the stories. It's like, hey, the other day, if it's okay with the customers, right? Typically, you want to ask them like, "Hey, the other day I had an opportunity. Whoever customer Michael reached out to me, and we had this really great meeting in which we talk about X, Y, and Z, and we are covered this particular needs, and now we're kind of doing this work with, Michael, and Michael is a satisfied customer. You could utilize those stories to also for LinkedIn, right? When you're in a consulting meeting, have somebody take a picture of you in action, post that in LinkedIn and showcase. Great meeting today with Michael as we went through the discovery phase of understanding this particular need and we're formulating a plan. Once you are executing the plan, whether that is on a workshop, again, I'm not quite sure what the model of your business is, report on that, right? It's like, today after we created the plan, now we're here with Michael or his team presenting and formulating solutions. Great. That's what LinkedIn is for, right? That's what people follow you is eventually, it's almost like you're creating a movie and you're beginning to tell that story for credibility, right? It's like, oh, right. People begin to follow your journey. Like if you look, a lot of the feedback that I get from people in the community, we're very active on LinkedIn and Instagram, is people are following our growth. It's like, wow, I see how active you guys are. Oh, I see that you guys are working in education now. Oh, I see that you guys are doing this. Oh, I see that you guys are doing that, right? They're not necessarily coming to me for business, but they're following the journey. They've invested themselves in this movie, the Novle movie, to be like, oh, I just saw that you hired somebody new. Where did you find her, right? So think about it from the lens. It's like, how am I creating a story of the growth of my business and sharing that story with my audience that is interested. Maybe they're not fully understanding it, they're not ready, but I see that they're interested in following my journey, right? Tell them the story, right? Tell them your story of growth. Tell them how you're helping customers. That also engages people.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Just like, as you are telling me, like it gave me an idea about like the next question. Now, as I have been building something like, consistently, and now I am showing up more regularly, when is the time do you think like, that I am like making that shift to like, taking people to the partnership model or to the website or the like services that I offer, or to make that like, connection. I'm now saying like, not much, but mostly like getting data and getting that like flow, as you like, as you mentioned. I'm doing this, asking their questions. And I just even today when I like shared my post, I also shared a little story about like with a teacher that I just recently had, like, had an issue that we were talking about. But how do you see that, like, that flow like goes? When is the time that is now I am moving on to the framework, the model that I am like, sharing with organization?
I think what I'm hearing is that is more of your customer journey. So what is that process from prospect to customer? Is that kind of what you
Yes,
are?
yes, yes.
Yeah. So I would ask that you think about that, right? Again, it's what is that process for you in earning the business? Um, and it could be that potentially even the first meeting is more like we're getting to know each other, right? We are building a relationship. And in part of that meeting, I'm also doing a need analysis, right? Because you're asking questions to understand. So my process is now that I've established that ground and I see that there's a potential opportunity to do business, then you got to do the ask, right? You know what, Mike? This is a great conversation. Will you be interested in maybe doing more of a need analysis meeting with me and seeing if maybe there's an opportunity for us to provide a service and help you through this process? And the question is going to be like, yeah, you know what? That's great. We are in need and we are looking for someone to help us right now. Let's move to the next process. Or it could be, not right now. I don't think I have the funding to do this, but we are considering this and potentially to do this in the future. Great. You put them in your funnel. And you ask that question, like when you say in the future, like how far out? We're working through budgets, maybe in August. You put that to your sales pipeline, and I gotta follow up with Michael in August, right? We get a lot of that. Depending on the model of the business for us, I'll tell you what the curve line for us is from beginning to end. It typically takes us about a year to onboard a customer. From the moment we start with the first conversation to then like second conversation, oh, then they got to bring all the stakeholders. Oh, now we got to give a proposal. We got to negotiate the proposal. Oh, now we got to onboard them. By the time I get a check, it's been at least 12 months. Like but I understand my journey. We know with certain companies, we know, okay, this conversation is starting in July. We may not see this client until August of next year, fully onboarded, because that's the process, right? So figure out those timelines and figure out your process. And again, I think I was sharing with that on the actionable thing is what is your onboarding process, right? And give that to saying, our onboarding process is this. Are you interested? Yes, take me to the next phase. Okay. Need analysis. What happens after need analysis? I'll give you a proposal. Okay, take me to the next phase. What's happening after I give you a proposal? We negotiate. We want to see if it fits your budget. Ta 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 ta. What happens after that? Then we onboard you. Okay, and then we begin the work. That's our process.
Thank you. Yeah, this is very helpful. Thank you,
And for all
Carlos.
of you here as business owners, and again, I'm only sharing best practices because I've been through this journey and I've had to learn. We can't be afraid to ask for the business, right? We all have to be confident in the fact that we have a viable solution and a viable product, particularly if other people have already consumed our product. And a lot of times we do have to, push a little bit with our customers and say, come on, man, you're ready. You need this. I know you're afraid, but you're trying to get to the next level, and you're not gonna get to the next level unless we help you through this consulting process. Like, project them and saying like, build fear on them and saying, if you're not, you're gonna get stuck. I'm gonna come back next year and be exactly in the same place. Is that what you want, Bob? No, no. It's like, come on, let's do this, man. Be excited. Like, we're a good company. I can show to you that I've helped other people. Let's. We do have to be again without ever being aggressive of over the top, but a lot of times We have to assess our customers, and when we feel that need a little push, we got to be assertive because they need that from us, right? They need from us to get them over the hump so they can solve the problem that they very well have realized they have, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Carlos. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Carlos. I think if you want to wrap up now, Carlos, we're ready. And let everybody know that you're going to be giving this workshop again at 2 p.m. Arizona time in Spanish today.
Spanish. Yeah. Well, again, I'm very honored and I'm very grateful for you guys' times, everyone's time here. I really hope that this was something that you can take with you and implement. Again, I'll share with you that being in this entrepreneurial journey that I've been in it hasn't been easy. I'm gonna talk more about my entrepreneurial experiences. It's very challenging, right? And even now, I'm not sure this to impress you by any means, but just to impress upon you that it's doable. I currently run a team of 15 people. We hit our first milestone by, overseeing $1 million in gross sales. But I started just like you, right? Just me hustling and bustling. So maintain that drive, maintain the commitment to your business, constant improvement through your product and your service. But the bottom line in this course is like become customer obsessed and ex- truly know that this is part of the entrepreneurship journey is you're here to serve, right? The validation we get is when we get paid, right? And when the customers tell us that they love us because we solved them the problem. And that, yeah, you also need that too, right? You need that validation component to be like, I'm viable. But that's where I made my first mistake probably in the first years is I was just overly obsessed with myself, right? I was like, oh, I have such a great idea. I know, Novle. All I care about was me, and I was missing the mark because once I started putting all the focuses on my customers and I approached it with a level of humility, everything began to click. All of the marketing solutions, all of the marketing plans, all of that you need, your customer holds. That's what I'm going to tell you. So approach your customer, ask them questions, build the relationships. They are your best ally. And then take all that feedback and convert it into marketing. I mean, that's the easiest form of saying. When your customer tell you this is my problem, then communicate that. When your customer tell you this is how you help to solve me, communicate that, right? This is why I love working with you. Communicate with that too, right? This is some of the challenges. Communicate. That's the transparency issue. That we just simply communicate. We're a filter of communication for what we know our customers want, need, and aspire to be. Because it's all aspirational at the end. It's really all aspirational for all of us, right? We're all a hero in our own stories, and we're all trying to save Gotham City, right? But even Rocky in his fight, he needed his coach, right? That's our role. We got to be that coach to say, okay, Rocky, I know how to train you, I know how to motivate you, I know how to help you, so you can ultimately, you know, win your fight and save the girl. That's what all customers want. We're not the hero, we're the facilitator. So if you keep that in mind, your marketing is going to be on point. Thank you again so much for this time. If I can, Linda, please feel free to follow us on Instagram in Novle Activators. For some of you that do networking as well, we do a good amount of PR work. Follow me let's connect on LinkedIn as well. And I mean this with the most sincerity, right? Please reach out to me at any time. I'm more than happy to. If you want to grab coffee, or if just through LinkedIn you have a question, or you want any references to things to read, things that I read that have really helped me in this journey of understanding brand and marketing, I'm more than happy to share it with you.
I just add Carlos LinkedIn on the chat. Also, I'm sure you guys know the email that I sent last night about today. Also is linked to his website and also has the link to his LinkedIn. So please do follow up. He really means what he's saying, and that's why he's here today. And I really, really appreciate, because Carlos is really, really busy. He's doing also his MBA at the same time, and he barely has time to sleep. So I really, really appreciate that he's here today, donating his time just to have this conversation with us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Carlos. I really appreciate it. I see a lot of thank yous in the chat for you. So please follow him ask him questions. He really is one of the best persons in the marketing ecosystem that we have here. Thank you, everybody, from being here. We're going to have this same session at 2 p.m. in Spanish if anybody here is interested again. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Carlos, so much. And
Thank you,
have an
guys.
amazing day, everyone.
Yes, take care. Thank you.
Thank you.